Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. It's Friday. Got some good information and just want to go back in time a little bit so that we can get to the present, because if we go back in time, you can always see what kind of progress has been made. A lot of times people seem to think that there's nothing new, there's nothing changed, it's all status quo, and it just is an ongoing process. But hey, it is an ongoing process. So first things first is like, look, for Iraq to go into the international market, into the global financial system, they're going to have regional trading partners. They're going to have agreements around the world, and they have done that. They've been working on that for years, and subsequently, they've made a big push to get into the World Trade Organization about 3 years ago. But to be fair, they've been in an observer status, I believe, since about 2004. So when you see all these trade agreements from so many different countries, look, there's more. I counted just 15 countries recently, and we have like Turkey, China, Oman, Iran, South Korea, Japan, Eastern Europe. Collectively, that's quite a few countries. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, UAE, Romania, Abu Dhabi, Egypt. I mean, the United States, of course. Canada, you get the picture, right? So when I say that they started the process for the World Trade Organization, they really kind of picked it up speed on this in January of 2023. One of the headlines is the government movement to complete the requirements for Iraq's accession to the World Trade Organization. It goes down to toward the bottom. It says it's working to complete the requirements for Iraq's accession to the organization. Basically, it includes completing technical accession files in terms of goods, services, intellectual property, and in addition to harmonizing legislation and laws and agreements with multilateral organizations. It basically says the Minister of Commerce has confirmed that they've prepared a plan in preparation for Iraq's negotiating team. Negotiating teams, if you do any research on the World Trade Organization, negotiating is a really powerful situation. It's probably some of the most heated or contentious negotiations that go on in the world. But it says they will be engaging in negotiation rounds with the member states of the organization by strengthening the negotiating capabilities of the members and benefiting from the experiences of other countries. So the negotiations was a big thing, and that was in January. So we have, again, in the month of January of this year, we had, if we recall back, we had the international TIR system. It's the international trucking. It says the latest procedures related to the application of the Transit and International Guarantee System, the TIR, in the entry of trucks for goods, which are studying to be able to apply in Iraq. So they're geared up to apply these international standards in a manner to be able to facilitate trade in all their new roads, et cetera, et cetera. The TIR, Trade Facilitation Agreement of the World Trade Organization, such as measures aimed at enhancing transparency, goods clearance, freedom of transit, customs operations, and the dissemination and availability of information. So here again, that's back in January. They were gearing to get international trucking. They didn't have it in the past, and now they have an agreement and an accession to that organization, global organization. And so now we move forward a little bit in time. So we come into February. It says that the experts discuss obstacles to Iraq's accession to the World Trade Organization. Well, it comes down to the Ministry of Commerce announced earlier a plan to complete the requirements for joining the World Trade Organization, stressing that this year will witness the completion of technical files in terms of goods, services, intellectual property. Again, they mention, in addition to holding official meetings at the organization's headquarters in Geneva. So it's basically outright stating this year will witness completion of technical files of terms of goods and services. So that is a very good indicator that they got started on this. So we had January and February. This particular last piece says that the requirements that qualify the country to be a producer and an exporter. And that's one of the things that you probably saw in the forum in the last couple of days, that Iraq has been to the process of exporting agricultural crops. So they're talking about that in February, and here this month of August, late August, they're talking about exporting commercial products because they have an abundance, and so therefore they have the ability to export outside their borders. Very good indicator that things are happening, because what is this about? The World Trade Organization is about importing and exporting. So yes, in fact, whether we like it or not, the WTO does make money off every little bits and pieces, the widgets, if you will, coming in and going in and out of Iraq. But the main thing about this, to keep them in context, that Iraq, the countries around Iraq, they all have to approve Iraq to be able to get into this group. And Iraq is going to make a lot of money, because once that trade opens up in those borders, they make all their money, probably far more than WTO will ever think of, through their taxes and tariffs at the borders, their fees, customs, and all that. The new accession system is up and running. They're going to be making a massive amount of money off all these imports. And then obviously those fees, taxes, and tariffs probably, and it's been reported that they can equal at least the output of the oil each year. So that's a tremendous amount of money. And that isn't even included in liquid natural gas. So this particular article is dated March. So January, February, March. Ministry of Planning is discussing the European Union, the support of Iraq joining the World Trade Organization. So we've mentioned some of those a few minutes ago, that I showed that there was a laundry list of countries and then some. And here we have the European Union, Ministry of Planning with the European Union and the International Trade Center at the Department of International Cooperation. They held a joint meeting, which was it on March 6th. It says that the project supporting Iraq to join the World Trade Organization has a huge good progress report. So basically, they're just admitting that they're involved in negotiations and a part of the whole process. And then within a month and a half later, we have the Moroccan charge d'affaires. It says that the Moroccan minister, talking about a joint Moroccan committee that's working with to activate economic trade and agreements with Iraq, and involved in that is the World Trade Organization. So the Moroccan side of things is also involved in this. The next one, we move fast forward to June. It says their Ministry of Commerce, again, the existence of a broad government movement to fulfill requirements for Iraq's accession to the World Trade Organization, while indicating that the file of financial contributions to the organization was settled. You're going to see it again in a minute, but the bottom line is that they paid up their dues. It says the Ministry of Commerce is working to fulfill the requirements through the chairmanship of the Minister of the National Committee concerned with joining the World Trade Organization. It says, of course, we've already mentioned the requirements are related to goods and services, agricultural file. There's that export. We saw exporting in the last couple of days. I think it was possibly even as early as yesterday. And modernization of the customs system. We know about the accession system. So this is back in June. Accession got started well before that, but here they're talking about this in particularly in June. The preparation for setting definitions for the provisions of the tariff law in order to negotiate them with the organization. So it looks like they had to have provisions for a tariff law to even have the ability to negotiate, which they probably have completely settled by now. The coordination is underway with the Iraqi private sector and the Kurdistan region for the purpose of unifying their files. Well, we know that they have a unified treasury account. If you can remember that, we've done a video on it. So basically, work is underway to prepare Iraq, their negotiating teams, and build their capabilities up for the negotiating technically and linguistically for the purpose of initiating negotiating rounds with the member states. So they have to have the approval and they have to negotiate. So if you have 10 widgets and 10 countries have those widgets, everybody's got to be on board to have the approval for Iraq to do trade. One of the things that they said that was kind of a holdup was the delay of the general budget for 2023, 24, 25. Well, if you've seen the articles just recently, we see that that some of these countries are openly talking about trade, and the reason they have the talks about the trade is because Iraq has that addressed in their 23-24 budget, which we're waiting to see if they start spending money. So let's see, they also reiterate in this particular case, the financial contributions incurred by Iraq to the organization has been settled and paid in full. So they're reiterating this again in the middle of June, and that's behind us, obviously. And it says the sums, yep, here again, the World Trade Organization has been paid. It basically was saying here, the Ministry of Commerce and Chairman of the National Committee on Iraq's accession to the organization had issued directives to give the issue the utmost importance. So in the latter part of June, the 20th, real close, Iraq has decided that it is the utmost importance, and the reason why, because it's going to have widespread impact on the global economy. The Association of Iraq's Private Banks, they held a workshop, and this fast forward to July 4th. They had a World Trade Organization, which was set up by the partnership and cooperation of the Ministry of Trade, the trade unions, federations, and private sector organizations. So al-Nusri, one of the most important returns and benefits achieved by the financial and banking system in Iraq from Iraq's secession as a full member of the World Trade Organization is regularity in the global financial system in accordance with the criteria for liberalizing financial services, entering the circle of financial globalization, and exchanging experiences with member states in the field of electronic technologies. There's significantly more to it. There's a paragraph with respect to Article 7, Paragraph 7, Article 12, and they're just talking about the development reforms. And ultimately, long and short of it, in compliant with the standards of the global financial system. Look, you can't emphasize it enough. Iraq, to ascend to the World Trade Organization, having a accession to it, they're going to have an Article 8 compliant currency. They haven't done that yet. But everything that I'm talking to you about, and that's why this is so important, is that they have done all this work, January, February, March, all the way to present, July 4th now, that the World Trade Organization has been making headroads with Iraq and their commerce departments to have accession, to get into the global financial system. It's going to have, I just got through telling you, it's going to have an impact on the global financial system. It's fascinating. So all of this may sound just a little bit kind of boring, and why why is it important? It's because Iraq, to go international, has to have an Article 8 compliant exchange rate, and it's not going to be at 1310. It just can't be. It does not work. So here, fast forward a little bit further, we have a whole document of education. It says people walk past the pier along the waterfront of the Shat al-Arab waterway in Basra, Iraq, January 18th, 2023 was one of the images. And then they go on to tell you was in 2004 it got started, and they just go on through and tell you who's involved. We got contractors unions, the Contractor Federation, Iraqi Businessmen's Union, Iraqi Private Banks League. So they go on and talk about it at length in July 24th, and that's come and gone. And here we are, it's in August 6th. We have the Ministry of Finance The legal department, Taif Sami discussed at the ministry's headquarters with the UK ambassador to Baghdad, Stephen Hitch, and his accompanying delegations, again for the steps of accession to the global financial system. Sounds like a country that's getting ready to go international, doesn't it? It says it's noteworthy that Iraq seeks to meet the requirements of joining the World Trade Organization amid great challenges related to what observers describe as structural, economic, and legislative distortions that hindered the process obtaining membership officially. Yeah, but that's what happened in the past. Now we're basically coming full circle, and they say this: specialists believe that Iraq is not ready to join the organization unless, key word, economic and legislative reforms are achieved. And obviously we've been seeing and talking about specifically that they've had significant efforts to achieve those items. You would not be having all those countries in the country within the last couple of weeks talking about doing trade. So it says here to facilitate its mission to obtain full membership. That's their main goal, is to do that, and that's to be able to communicate and do trade around the world. Iraq is looking to accelerate its accession to the World Trade Organization. This is August 16th, and it is the Ministry of Trade getting together, and this was on a Wednesday. They're getting together with not only with the United Nations Trade Center, the World Trade Organization, representatives of the World Food Program, the European Union. All of these people, all these organizations discussed a formula for joint action to support the process of Iraq's accession to the World Trade Organization. Again, accession is going to need a Article 8 compliant currency. Yeah, so their program is basically to communicate with the countries of the world in a discrete, international, organized way to benefit from its expertise to developing the Iraqi economy. So here's this is the last one. It's basically suggesting that they indicated that they've been working in Iraq for 3 years diligently. Their work was with the Ministry of Commerce, and it's in an advanced aspect. So ultimately, it says that the center will provide Iraq with a diagnosis of challenges and a work to support Iraq's accession to the World Trade Organization by providing technical and legal advice and supporting trade policies to align with international standards. So there you have it. It's late as August 16th. You get the impression that these guys are about ready to go. And I cannot imagine that they're not, especially as we saw the progression from January to August. That was almost 10 pages of data, or 11 pages of data that support that what we've been talking about is truly an important situation. Iraq isn't just doing the status quo. They aren't just sitting on their hands. They've been doing things behind the scenes that you typically, if you're not reading all of this data that we have in Patreon, you have no idea. It is so much bigger than just Iraq all by itself. And why are they doing things? You know, the blah 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 syndrome. It's not. It's been an amazing road. And here's even more stuff that I'm only go for a real brief stint, but as of August 20th. So that was the 16th of August. Here on August 20th, it says negotiations with the World Bank and add financing of $700 million in the field of road construction. What did we talk about? In January, they talked about road construction. The trucking, they had to have all this stuff in place. And here they're talking about giving them $700 million to jumpstart this. And the World Bank is adding, it says an additional $700 million in financing for the road sector. They've got many projects. It says 3 of the projects referred to or during the next 2 weeks, and so this was August 20th, and so we're coming up on that next 2 weeks as we speak, and we're going to see how these new city projects are going to roll. They're basically going to be building out cities for 10 years, so they have to have all these trade agreements signed and in place. Realize that some of these countries are going to sign on deals. They're going to take 10, 20, 30 years. They got to know that they have value to that, and that's for the future. And so taking it into consideration, this isn't just a one-time shot. Tomorrow we're international and that's all there is to it. No, they have to have contracts. They have to have an agreements signed agreements. You might see kings, queens, and I don't know about queens, but prime ministers and all these different major people signing, if they haven't already. They could have it all done. They could have it done yesterday. I don't know that, but the bottom line is that what I just portrayed is with the World Bank now, and the WTO is kind of like it's on steroids. Here's another World Bank meeting. It says the World Bank's great desire to continue its support for Iraq in various fields, especially in the field of automation, and their expertise in water and agriculture, as well as infrastructure projects and services, and the Social Fund for Development. We saw a little bit about the Social Fund for Development yesterday, which the World Bank considers one of its most important projects. So we're seeing the work between the World Bank. We're seeing, in this particular next one is the U.S. Ambassador Alina Romansky. I think they got that messed up, but I'll let it slide. It says the World Bank supports the efforts of the Iraqi government. And so the U.S. Ambassador and the World Bank same day are communicating. It says they met yesterday, and they provided technical assistance and other ways in which the bank can support Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani to build Iraq's economy and provide world-class infrastructure to ensure a better future for the Iraqis. So again, what we're seeing is two of the largest entities in the world having the meeting of the minds. So here, the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq, Ali Alak, and this is on August 24th. This is one of the most recent articles that we have between the World Bank and Al-Alaq. It says on Thursday, with a delegation from the World Bank, the central bank's efforts to organize and consolidate external transfers. Well, external means international in my definition anyway. The governor of the central bank received a high-ranking delegation from the World Bank, headed by Farid Belha, vice president of the World Bank for the Middle East and North Africa. And the quote states here, that's the most important. It says the meeting discussed the efforts of the Central Bank of Iraq to organize and consolidate external transfers in accordance with compliance requirements and international standards, and to encourage merchants to enter the electronic platform to buy dollars by providing facilities and simplifying tax customs procedures that the government is making anticipated amendments to. So all of these things you guys have heard, all this stuff over this last year, all about this happening, but now you can start to see that it's coming to an end. They're finishing it. They've anticipating to completion. It's fascinating to see that the World Bank and the delegation praise the efforts and procedures of the Central Bank of Iraq at all levels, expressing its readiness to provide any advice or technical expertise in these areas and to continue implementing the program it is working on with the central bank. That last paragraph right there is readiness to provide advice and technical support and expertise. At the end of the day, that's where Iraq is today on a Friday. It looks like we're seeing these trade agreements. I mean, you've got all those countries that I talked about, Japan, South Korea, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Jordan. I mean, you get the picture. Iraq's ready to go international, and what we're hoping and praying for is that they show us an Article 8 compliant exchange rate and show us their new currency that they're going to be using in the near future. I think those new small category notes that were printed back in 2018 need to get exposed to the world. They will be somewhat of a cash-less society, and therefore they won't need as much because everything with this digital transformation that we've been talking about as well is underway. So there it is, you guys. Happy Friday. Thank you for being here, and those that are new, hit that like button, subscribe, and if you care to help to keep the content moving, hit those donate buttons. I appreciate you very much for all your support. Thank you. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.